on fire. We got police. I saw the pockets of fire. We should be able to knock it down with 2 lines. Where you know that? 78th floor, numerous 1045 call lines. What scared you, Mario?
They want you to believe that the Keystone Flight traffic controllers were on duty that day watching all 4 opportunities to scramble fighter jets, even though they successfully scrambled those same fighters 67 times that year.
All right, Boston Center, Team U. We have a problem here. We have a hijacked aircraft headed towards New York. We need someone to scramble some F-16s or something up there to help us out.
Is this real world or exercise?
No, this is not an exercise, not a test.
American Airline Flight 11 departed Boston Logan Airport at 7:45 a.m. The last routine communication between ground control and the plane occurred at 8:13 a.m. Between 8:13 and 8:20, Flight 11 became unresponsive to ground control. Additionally, radar indicated that the plane had deviated from its assigned path of flight. Soon thereafter, transponder contact was lost. 2 Flight 11 airline attendants had separately called American Airlines reporting a hijacking, the presence of weapons, and the inflictions of injuries on passengers and crew. At this point, it would seem abundantly clear that Flight 11 was an emergency. And yet, according to NORAD's official timeline, NORAD was not contacted until 20 minutes later at 8:40 a.m. Tragically, the fighter jets were not deployed until 8:52 a.m., a full 32 minutes after loss of contact with Flight 11.
They want you to believe that these Keystone air traffic controllers were able to safely land nearly 4,500 flights within an hour, admirably achieving something that had never been done before. However, these same air traffic controllers were not able to pick up a phone and warn NORAD in time.
Do we want to think about scrambling aircraft?
Oh, God, I don't know.
That's a decision somebody's going to have to make probably in the next 10 minutes.
Everybody just left the room.
Another one. The Commission itself points out the FAA did have one truly unprecedented task to perform that day, namely immediately landing thousands of aircraft in the air wherever they were. The Commission agrees the FAA, and I quote, executed that unprecedented task flawlessly, unquote. Is it not strange, asks Griffin, that FAA personnel carried out this unprecedented task flawlessly and yet failed so miserably with tasks they had been performing on a regular basis?
No, don't ask why NORAD relies on the FAA alerting them about wayward aircraft. Even though NORAD has the most sophisticated tracking equipment on the planet, just go with it.
Additionally, Griffin observes, according to the Commission, the U.S. military is itself blind, being wholly dependent on the FAA to inform it about what is going on in U.S. airspace. The commissioners would have us forget, as they do, the billions of dollars NORAD spent building detection systems second to none. As Thierry Masson writes in his book, Pentagate, the military in fact possess several very sophisticated radar monitoring systems, incomparable with the civilian systems.
Prior to 9/11, FAA and Department of Defense manuals gave clear, comprehensive instructions on how to handle everything from minor emergencies to full-blown hijackings. These protocols dictate that in the event of an emergency, the FAA is to notify NORAD. Once that notification takes place, it is then the responsibility of NORAD to scramble fighter jets to intercept the errant plane. It is a matter of routine procedure for fighter jets to intercept commercial airliners in order to regain contact with the pilot. In fact, between June 2000 and September 2001, fighter jets were scrambled 67 times. If that weren't enough protection, on September 11th, NEADS, or the Northeast Air Defense System of NORAD, was several days into a semi-annual exercise known as Vigilant Guardian. This meant that our Northeast Air Defense System was fully staffed. In short, key officers were manning the Operation Battle Center, fighter jets were cocked, loaded, and carrying extra gas on board. Lucky for the terrorists, none of that mattered on September 11th.
They ignored the warnings. More than that, we have mounting evidence that at least they made it impossible for those planes to be intercepted. If our government had merely did nothing, and I say that as an old interceptor pilot, I know the drill, I know what it takes, I know how long it takes, I know what the procedures are, I know what they were, and I know what they've changed them to. If our government had merely done nothing and allowed normal procedures to happen on that morning of 9/11, the Twin Towers would still be standing and thousands of dead Americans would still be alive. My sisters and brothers, that is treason.
What is the reason for the failure of U.S. military jets to show up in a timely fashion on 9/11?
Well, the simple fact is, Barry, that they didn't know where to go. The reason that they didn't know where to go was because a number of conflicting and overlapping war game exercises were taking place, one of which, Northern Vigilance, had pulled a significant number of North American fighter aircraft into Canada and Western Alaska and Northern Alaska in a mock Cold War hijack exercise. There was another drill, Vigilant Guardian, which was a hijack exercise, a command post exercise, but it involved the insertion of false radar blips onto radar screens in the Northeast Air Defense Sector. In addition, we have a confirmation, thanks to General Richard Myers, who was acting chairman of the Joint Chiefs, who told Richard Clark, as reported in Clark's book, that there was another exercise, Vigilant Warrior, which was, in fact, according to a NORAD source, a live-fly hijack drill being conducted at the same time. With only 8 available fighter aircraft, and they have to be dispatched in pairs, they were dealing with as many as 22 possible hijacks on the day of 9/11, and they couldn't separate the war game exercises from the actual hijacks.
But this was done deliberately, though.
Apparently so, and I will be saying that in my forthcoming book, Crossing the Rubicon, 9/11 and the Decline of American Empire at the End of the Age of Oil. We have done an extensive investigation on that to show that these war game exercises were apparently very well planned by someone who I will show, I believe, was Dick Cheney in the United States government to deliberately confuse FAA, NORAD, and U.S. Air Force fighter response to fulfill a prophecy that another man had once said, let one happen and stop the rest.
Indeed, they were able to accomplish an unprecedented event of landing thousands of flights but could not perform a routine mission of informing NORAD to scramble jets onto the wings of wayward aircraft. They hope you forget that the television coverage on September 11th didn't show an airplane at the Pentagon. They hope you will buy the amazing story that for the first time in aviation history the airplane vaporized due to the heat of the fire. Please do not ask how a Boeing 757 with a wingspan of 125 feet, a height of 44 feet and a length of 155 feet disappeared into a 16-foot diameter hole, then vaporized and left no wreckage on the outside of the building.
You know, it might have appeared that way, but from my close-up inspection, there's no evidence of a plane having crashed anywhere near the Pentagon. The only site is the actual site of the building that's crashed in, and as I said, the only pieces left that you can see are small enough that you could pick up in your hand. There are no large tail sections, wing sections, a fuselage, nothing like that anywhere around, which would indicate that the entire plane crashed into the side of the Pentagon.
No, the airplane did not simply melt into a giant pool of molten aluminum, steel and titanium. It actually burned hot enough to turn it into a vapor that was then blown off by the gentle summer breeze. They hope you will not connect the dots when they say they recovered most of the human remains at the Pentagon, even though the airplane itself vaporized. Obviously those who doubt that airplanes can vaporize are wrong, otherwise Fox or NBC or one of those pillars of responsible journalism would question it. So apparently there have been significant changes in the temperature hydrocarbons can burn in the atmosphere, and or there have been changes as to what temperature it takes to melt air vaporize aluminum, titanium.